Hello and welcome to the Camo Grind, a series where I analyze every weapon in Advanced Warfare to help you complete every camo challenge by giving specific strategies, loadouts, and more, including ranking every weapon variant in order of usefulness based on several factors to give you an idea of what you should use and what you should redeem. I don't, however, just make this stuff up. My advice and opinions are based on thorough testing, in-game coded stats, and of course my own experiences in using these weapons and weapon variants, of which I own many, to complete every marksman challenge and earn every royalty camo. Today's episode is on the S-12, a pretty lackluster shotgun when the game first launched, and while it has been buffed once or twice to be more competitive, still not the best weapon. Let's get right into the variant ranking system though. Now of course I did base these opinions on a lot of factual things like the coded stats, the times to kill at all ranges, and of course my own testing and playtime experience, but at the end of the day these are just opinions. Don't take this as fact, it is just a guide. Now I will first say I'm not quite sure what the situation is on last gen consoles with game updates, and I hope this is correct information for everyone. I know that a little while ago they buffed the S12 to increase its base fire rate pretty dramatically. They also buffed some other damage and range values, but anyway, for quite a while, maybe over a month, there was an issue where the S12 variants were unaffected by this rate of fire buff. They made the new rate of fire of the regular S12 600 RPM, whereas it used to be around 450 RPM. But all of these variants that buffed your fire rate up to something like 500 or 545 RPM, well, you see the problem. Those are both lower than the new base variant at 600, and of course they come with other downsides because the rate of fire increase was supposed to be the upside of that variant. So if I had made this video back then when that was happening, you would have seen a ranking that looked like this, with the Vengeance, Compliant, and Galant as what I would consider decent, then everything else being awful, because many S12 variants mess with your rate of fire. That's kind of a common theme, and all of those were made bad by that patch. Main point I want to make here is I don't know what the status is on the 360 and PS3, because I hear all the time that they're still waiting on patches that the current gen console and PC guys got a while ago. So if the S12 still behaves like that, if you think the base variant sounds faster than something like the Tiger Blood, well, go with this ranking over here, but for most people I think this ranking will be most appropriate. They did eventually rebalance all of the S12 variants appropriately to match the buffed base variant, which made the Tiger Blood once again the best variant in my opinion. Some people may not agree with me there, but let me explain and compare it to the Whirlwind. Interestingly, back before the S12 buff, the Tiger Blood and Whirlwind both brought your rate of fire up to 545 RPM, even though the Tiger Blood claims to be faster. Well, it seems they also corrected that, because the new Tiger Blood brings you up to a crazy fire rate of 750 RPM, the same fire rate as the AK-12, and it also improves your sprint out time, shortening it by 10%. Very nice, and the only downside to the Tiger Blood is 10% worse hip spread. Well, what about that -1 damage, you might say? That looks pretty significant. Well, as it turns out, that's another one of Sledgehammer's lies. I really don't know why they do this. Dozens of variants say something in-game that just isn't represented in the actual weapon stats. I don't know why they love confusing players like that. It seems kinda stupid if you ask me, but that's the way it is, and it makes the Tiger Blood a very strong variant with only that one downside. Usually if a shotgun reports a damage change, it doesn't actually change any damage numbers. What it does is it reduces or adds a pellet to your spread. By default there are 8 pellets in your spread, and damage buffs and nerfs will add or reduce one of those pellets. For some reason that just isn't the case with the Tiger Blood, so a very good variant. In second, we do have the Whirlwind, which may look like the better choice if you're just judging off those tricky in-game stat bars, and it is indeed a very good variant. It doesn't increase your fire rate as much as the Tiger Blood. This one brings you up to 705 RPM, but that's more than enough. The best thing about the Whirlwind is actually the magazine size increase from 8 to 10. Your shots go very fast with this thing, especially with the increased fire rate, and having more shots in your mag is very helpful. It's basically a given that you'll be using extended mags as soon as you unlock it for this weapon, and with this variant you'll have 15 shots instead of the 12 that you'd have with other variants after applying extended mags, and that is very nice. Unfortunately, the Whirlwind will apply a 10% penalty to your sprint out time, which isn't a big deal, but also a 20% penalty to your hip spread, which really does suck for shotguns, and that's why I'd rather stick with the crazy fast Tiger Blood. If the Tiger Blood actually did have a damage nerf, I'd say the Whirlwind is better, but since it doesn't, these variants are very close. They're number 1 and 2 for a reason, and if you have either of them, you're pretty set. Now in third we have the U, not a super crazy variant being enlisted after all, and it's very similar to the N. I go back and forth on which one of these I think is better. Basically both the U and the N raise your fire rate from 600 to 666. Yep, that's what it is. Except the U has a 10% penalty to your hip spread, and the M has a 15% penalty to your short range damage drop-off distance. So both help your time to kill a decent amount with a fairly small nerf. Now we're getting into some of the less exciting variants, and like usual, I won't explain every single one. The Vengeance, Compliant, Galant, and Quiet Time, sort of. If you want a silenced shotgun for some reason, I'm not the biggest fan, but it would be an okay choice. Those are all variants I think are more positive than negative, and I'd recommend using them. If you disagree with the position of one of these, feel free to leave a comment and I'll explain my reasoning. After all, I could be missing something, but here we are at the base variant. So everything after this, we only have 2 variants here, and I just don't like them. Sorry, Adroit and Varmint, not a big fan, but I don't recommend using these at all. Just opt for the base variant for a better weapon. So there's my opinion on the variants of the S12, and now we move on to the camo challenges themselves. We haven't covered a shotgun on the series yet, so this should be pretty interesting. First, we have hipfire kills, starting off easy here. This challenge should be no problem. Honestly, hipfire is often the easier way to use the S12. I'm usually just running around with something like this, using every speed perk possible, as well as gung-ho and a laser sight. Gung-ho used to be terrible on shotguns because it made the hipfire absolutely awful, but it's not nearly as bad now and a pretty usable perk. With a setup like this one, or whatever you want to use, honestly, hipfire shouldn't be much of a problem. Next, you need 40 headshots. Nice that isn't the 80 like usual. It's often hard to get headshots on purpose. This shotgun kind of does what it wants, and there is no headshot multiplier on the S12, which doesn't really help you there. But you will just get headshots over time. This isn't something to worry about. Now we come to 10 dogfight medals. This is probably the most frustrating challenge here, as it is for all shotguns, because it isn't something you can just do. Like with getting kills with no perks and no attachments, that's pretty easy, but for this, you need to jump when someone else jumps and get the kill in midair. That's usually pretty hard to control, but you can also set yourself up to get them to some extent. Of course, play some sort of crazy game mode like Momentum where there's a common objective for people to run to. People will be jumping around much more than something like TDM. Try to get behind people and kind of run behind them and predict when they're going to jump up to get to a ledge. A map like Riot is great for this. There are tons of ledges and roofs that people jump to, and at close range at least, the S12 will melt someone pretty fast and you have a good chance at getting that dogfight medal. Unfortunately, there is a disadvantage to the S12. Another great way to get dogfight medals usually is to use exo hover, but this applies much more to SMGs than shotguns. SMGs being the other weapon class where you need dogfights. It's pretty easy to just float in a corner somewhere, wait for other people to jump and shoot them when they do, but that's pretty tough with the range that the S12 has. You can try it. I would say if you're done with all other challenges and you're just trying to get these dogfights done, having exo hover is better than nothing. It'll help more than it'll hurt. Even if you can't just hover in one place and shoot people from afar, it does make things easier to time. Maybe you run into someone on a flag, you both start shooting, you jump up. The chances are he won't jump up with you at the exact same time, but if you jump up and hover there, there's a decent chance that he jumps up maybe half a second later and you get that dogfight. So exo hover can be pretty useful. There isn't much more to say about dogfight medals, but play some Momentum, jump around a lot, use exo hover, and occasionally follow behind people and see if you can time your jump with them to get the kill. So best of luck with that one. It shouldn't be too bad if you're doing all of that. Next we have 20 double kills, which may sound menacing, but I think you may find they come pretty naturally with the S12, especially since that patch where they changed the way double kills work to give you a lot more time. I will say it's absolutely necessary that you're using extended mags for this. It can be pretty annoying to get 2 kills on one regular S12 mag, but you should be using extended mags anyway with this gun. If you're lucky enough to have the S12 Tiger Blood and Whirlwind, I might even advise switching to the Whirlwind for this challenge just for that extra ammo. Not a huge deal though, and I feel like every 5 seconds I recommend playing Momentum, but I swear it'll help you with a lot of these challenges. Now approaching the end here, we have 40 kills during or after a slide. Now, this challenge was made really easy in one of the recentish patches. I don't really know why. Back in my day, gung-ho was a necessity for this challenge because you essentially needed to get a kill while sliding, which you know if you earned the low blow medal. It didn't used to work at all if you got a kill after your slide, like it says during or after. When I read that, I thought it was kind of like the action hero challenge from one of the Black Ops games where you needed to dive through a window and get a kill within the next 5 seconds or something. But for this, it needed to be during your slide. Now, I really don't know what to say, but it seems very easy or maybe bugged. Like they just give the challenge to you for free. This clip was when I realized something was up because nothing about what I did here included a slide, yet it gave me the challenge completion for that challenge. So I don't know how this works anymore. If it works the way it used to, just use speed perks along with gung ho, and slide kills should be pretty easy anyway. And finally, the two challenges we all know and love: no perks, no attachments, no problem. That about wraps up the challenge guide for the S12. If you're going for camos now, it won't be nearly as bad as when I did them. The S12 used to be completely awful, but now it has better range, damage, and fire rate, and hip fire, a bunch of things. Now it's a somewhat viable weapon, and you'll probably have a bit of fun running around with it. Next episode, we'll be taking a look at the Mark 14 or the MK14 due to your suggestions. If you have a specific weapon or two you'd like to see covered either for the camo device or the variant ranking, don't hesitate to suggest it and I'll add it to the list. Keep in mind there are quite a few weapons already lined up on the variant ranking spreadsheet. That's where you can see the planned episodes. So if you suggest a new weapon, I will certainly add it, but we've got quite a few other things to get through first. That in mind, I hope you are more knowledgeable about the S12 now than you were 12 minutes ago, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.